WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and the game being on Thursday night, Cincinnati, and Luke and I will be out there. Plus, we got this crazy hurricane coming in. I have not on the radio or on the web, other than on Twitter a little bit, talked about watching the Serena Williams situation unfold at the U.S. Open over the weekend. And it just so happens that Ebonye Jones was actually booked onto our program here as the tennis coach at Coppin. It is our Coppin Hour. We welcome you back in for a little Coppin conversation. But on the tennis side of things, we're going to talk some Serena. But it's not tennis season where you are, right, Ebonye? You got some matches coming up here in the fall, right?
Yeah, we got a few matches in the fall. If the hurricane kind of blows past us, we'll be at College Park this weekend playing in the Bedford Cup.
You can move these things inside, though, sometimes, though, right? Maybe?
You never know. You never know.
All right. Well, look.
It's veered off a little bit already.
I know everybody's geared up. And look, for Wimbledon and for U.S. Open, a little bit to the French, not so much with the Australian because they played out in the middle of the night. But, anytime I feel like I want to go hit a tennis ball, it happens because of Wimbledon. As a kid, it always did. It happens because of the U.S. Open. And certainly this was not the finest hour for the tournament, for the sport, for the judge. I mean, for everybody involved in this, it's not good. But it might be good for tennis that we're talking about it because I don't think people even understand the etiquette of all of it and the background. And it became black, white, male, female, men's, women's. It became all of that. But I think just watching it as a tennis fan, I think it was kind of a shame for sure.
Oh, it was definitely a very painful thing to watch. The way it unfolded is unprecedented. You see the argument coming up where you see men act the way they do, and John McEnroe. I'm of that age of the John McEnroe era, and we saw John act out of his mind using profanity. And I think the argument more so is how do you advocate for yourself? And if someone in the same sport as you advocates for themselves in a manner that can be shown as negative, and you follow suit, but you're held to a different standard, then that's the problem. There's nothing wrong with standing up for yourself because if you lay down and take it, you're giving up. You're giving up on yourself. So I think with Serena, it's very unfortunate, and Naomi did not deserve to win this way. It kind of overshadowed her first Grand Slam. But I think Serena had every right. She had every right. And how the hammer was laid down to her, it's totally disrespectful.
Yeah, I don't know at any point where, there's a foul called on you where you would say, no, don't call that wasn't a foul. Or whether she could have said, don't take a point away from Serena. Don't let me win. I don't want to win that way. You know what I mean? And I heard Serena's, I think it was okay until the thief part came, and then it kind of went over the edge a little bit. And I don't know in the modern era how much, because I don't watch what happens on court 19. I barely watch what happens in the Australian. I don't know how much chippiness goes on. And I do know in the NFL level, there's some stuff you get away with, and there's stuff you don't get away with the officials. Certainly baseball, they would always say an umpire would have rabbit ears, to throw out a manager, but don't throw out the shortstop because I need him. That a certain player would have more latitude than another player or somebody that's yelling on. Look, we all have a different set of rules and standards, but there's nothing standardized about the rule here. And certainly the coaching thing, and that's even more interesting to me than the gender thing or any of that, is just, are you allowed to coach or are you not allowed? I mean, and in sports, we see a sign stealing, right? Like Bill Belichick is a thief, famously. He put cameras up in taping practices, and you get caught for that, and you say, well, how egregious is that? How egregious a penalty is it to be doing what everybody else is doing? That's sort of the weird part for me, that it feels a little targeted in that way.
Yes. With tennis, especially on the pro circuit, there are some things that you're not allowed to do. But it's all in how you interpret it and what you see. And what a ref sees and what's actually happening is two different things. And I think the interpretation of what happened maybe got clouded and that which caused a penalty. And I think that's when Serena stepped in and she advocated for herself. And I think that was totally fine because you're in the finals of a major. You're up for world records right now, and to say, someone's cheating, that's a blow. It's a blow to your integrity. It's a blow to your brand. So it's just bigger than just the ruling. But I just think it got clouded within the interpretation of what the referee saw.
Well, anybody that gets called a cheater, right, that competes, that ruffles the feathers. You know what I mean? Like,
that's serious talk.
Yeah,
that's serious talk. You call someone a cheater. That is speaking to their integrity. That is speaking to their character. And on college levels, especially in the professional range, that's really important. That alludes to your finances, to your sponsorship. Most people have moral clauses in their contract. So, it's bigger than what we just see on the surface. It's you just saying, oh, you have point penalty for cheating, for coaching, which isn't allowed. But it's all everything, because some of the things we didn't see. So we're seeing what the ref said and what caused like this snowball effect, which ended terribly.
And there's no doubt about that. Ebonye Jones is here. She is the Eagles men's and women's tennis coach. It's a pleasure to have her on. Of course, our relationship with Coppin State continues this year. We'll be airing the men's and women's basketball games. We'll get Juan on soon. I know we had AD on last week. We're mixing in we're mixing in all the sports over there, but certainly tennis this week. Tell me at your level what you're allowed to do and not do, and how long have you watched and played tennis, and how many times have you ever seen these kinds of calls where you feel like maybe you could get called for cheating or for bending the rules? I don't see that as being a big part of tennis at any level, honestly, the cheating part. Usually the arguments in tennis are all about, was it a foot fault or was the ball in or out? Like literally, that's the extent of almost 95% of all arguments in tennis, right?
Yeah, definitely. So if you back up, I have been playing tennis I've played tennis for about 25 years. I've been coaching for about 15. And tennis is different on each level. So on the collegiate level, we're on the court as our players are engaged in points. And I can verbally talk to my player between points, between games. When you play USTA sanctions or ITF, your coach isn't on the court. It's only when you get to the professionals that you have the option that your coach can come out when requested during the match. There can be no coaching from the stands.
Have you ever cost a kid of yours a point, or just in general? How often, at a competitive level, do you ever see a coach step enough over the line to cost a player? I don't know how often that happens. I see managers get thrown out in baseball all the time, right? I mean,
very rarely, because if you go back to the origins of tennis, like tennis is a gentleman's sport.
It's a quiet sport too.
It's a quiet sport. Like a lot of people, when they go to like what the closest tournament to us is the City Open, and some people, it's very shocking that you don't talk between the points. Like you can only cheer at certain things. So there's a lot of etiquette that is involved in tennis that a lot of people aren't familiar with. So parents usually aren't, riled up, but it happens occasionally. It doesn't happen that often with the sport where a parent has to be removed from something. And I know within USTA sanctioned tournaments, like if a parent were to cause a scene or coach, that would be a point penalty or game penalty, just like what happened in the U.S. Open for their child. So there is that connection. And I think, some things from this circumstance at the U.S. Open will cause some change within regulations when it comes to, these rulings.
Tell me about your team over there at Coppin and what you guys got cooking and going on. I'm here to promote. I mean, look, we could talk Serena all night here, but I know you.
We could. We could, but
well, we'll do it. We'll do it the next time a little longer. But I don't know. I don't think there's going to be any next time. I think I
hope not. I hope not.
Whatever that was. I mean, if they have people angry like that, and that poor girl who, I'm googling her and I'm like, oh my God, look at this girl's background, how young she is, and what she represents, and it's ugly, and I don't know. It's the ugly side of sports. That's all I can say. But you got the beautiful side of sports. You get student athletes over there. And I talked last week a little bit. It's kind of like a lot of energy when kids come back to school. Like, I wish I could go back to college or high school or even elementary school just to experience that first day back. The real life doesn't have much of that, right?
Yes. So, the kids are back. The beginning of the school year kind of like New Year's, like things just start over and it's new and exciting. People have new goals. And we're definitely gearing up for a great season. Our fall season is, as I said earlier, slated to start this weekend. We have some new players coming in. We're actually adding some new competitions this year. I think we have George Mason on our schedule. We haven't been out to Fairfax before, so I'm really excited to what happens with Coppin tennis this year.
A lot of people don't know, and I say that all the time. One of the reasons Coppin is with us, we promote the games and the other sports, is a lot of people don't know there's a great baseball program over there and softball. But, got things happening, and tennis is part of that. And you guys stay local. You play in Newark, Delaware, Easton, Pennsylvania. I see here a lot of Baltimore, Washington, Emmitsburg, and as you said, March 30th going down to Fairfax. So I love tennis. I actually took a selfie at the Brady Anderson tennis courts when I left the stadium the other night. I'm going to put that up to honor Brady Anderson when I write his Dear Brady letter. The CoppinStateSports.com. You can find a schedule and all the information about Ebonye up there as well. CoppinStateSports.com. Really enjoyed the conversation. I'm sorry it's under bad circumstances, but I'll make you our Australian Open expert in January. I'll bring you on, all right?
Cool beans. Sounds like a plan.
And if my knee felt better, I'd go hit it around with you a little bit as well. Ebonye Jones joining us here, Eagles head men's and women's tennis coach. Talk a little Serena as well as some Eagles sports. CoppinStateSports.com to learn more.